Welcome back in here to Live Now from Fox. I am Andy Mack. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're following maybe what comes next after President Biden deciding not to seek re-election. He has endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris, and there has been a big splash of donations, fundraising for that campaign. Of course, Vice President Kamala Harris's presidential campaign has raised over $50 million in grassroots donations since Biden suspended his re-election bid. In a post to Fox News Digital, they say, since the president endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris yesterday afternoon, everyday Americans have given $49.6 million in donations to her campaign, and that coming earlier this morning. So still, that continues to grow with the war chest. Let's bring into the conversation right now to understand more about Vice President Kamala Harris and also the fallout of this. We spoke with him yesterday on Sunday, former New York legislator Josh Lazafan. Thank you again for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. And of course, you talked about potentially an open convention at the DNC. With the amount of money raised by Kamala Harris already, the amount of endorsements does she have? Does that change your mind in 24 hours? Do you think she should be the one, or are we more about the open convention still?
Sure, Andy, thanks for having me. And I will tell you, time is moving faster than at any point, I think, in human history. Just to take us back, 9 days ago was the Trump assassination attempt. And in 9 days, we had a former president shot, a current president drop out, and a vice president declare her candidacy. So we're truly living through an important chapter in U.S. history. But I will say, yesterday I spoke to the merits of an open convention. And while I personally, as a Democrat, believe that's the way to go, I will tell you as a strategist, quite frankly, the nomination is over. Right, in less than 24 hours, Kamala Harris has done something stunning, which is the coalescing around her candidacy. Yeah. In less than a day, she's accumulated endorsements from 31 senators, and this is a running list, 31 senators, 156 representatives, 16 governors, her biggest rivals like Gavin Newsom and Gretchen Whitmer, the Clintons, the Bidens, cabinet members, SEIU, American Federation of Teachers, and Emily's List. So I will tell you, the nomination, open convention, closed convention, this thing is all wrapped up and done.
Yeah, that is a very good point. Very interesting, just the amount of momentum her campaign has already. And I do want to maybe push back on also something you said yesterday, that maybe people aren't paying attention right now. They usually pay attention closer to November. Is that kind of also maybe a little bit different? People are paying attention, correct?
100% they are. And granted, people aren't paying attention in terms of maybe the level they will the week before Election Day, but we're living through unprecedented times, right? Where right now, having a current president drop out, a vice president step in, a former president come back from an assassination attempt on the campaign trail, unprecedented times means there's unprecedented eyeballs on this campaign. And I will say, this election is a dead heat nationally. Trump is leading Harris in the first head-to-head 47-45, right? 2-point difference. That's right within the margin of error. And that's around the same 2.5% lead that Trump had over Biden, with 46 over Biden's 43.5. I will say that polls show that Kamala Harris performed better against Trump than Biden across all age groups, except for those over 65 who flip towards Trump when Harris is on the ticket. So all of this is to say that Kamala Harris has jolted energy and excitement into the enthusiastic base of the Democrats. And all of this is to underscore that really, months and months in, this race is really just beginning.
Yeah, just beginning. 106 days. It was 107 yesterday, 106. The countdown continues as well. Something we didn't get to talk about yesterday, maybe into depth, is the vice president pick as well. There's different names being floated. Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona. How crucial will that be? And maybe how may she make that decision? How may she come to the decision, let's say, if she is the official nominee?
Sure. So many elections, the vice presidential nominee does not move the needle in terms of statistics. Voters vote at the top of the ticket. But this is no ordinary election, right? Given the fact that Kamala Harris is the current vice president, her nominee, not only to contrast and juxtapose with J.D. Vance, but her nominee has the potential to shore up areas of vulnerability for her. Of course, you have Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona, Governor Shapiro from Pennsylvania, Governor Andy Beshear to help in the South, and maybe Secretary Buttigieg to help in the Midwest. But I will say, I believe Kamala Harris will make a choice for vice president to shore up the vulnerabilities that she has as a candidate. The Trump super PAC, MAGA Inc., is spending $5 million this week on an attack ad against Harris in swing states like Pennsylvania and Georgia and Arizona. And here's what they're saying. They're saying that Kamala Harris knew of Joe Biden's declining condition and covered it up. Which is, a nefarious accusation. They're saying that they're running against the Biden-Harris administration on immigration, crime, and inflation. And they're saying that the Democrats defied the democratic process in coordinating Harris without an open primary. So the answer to your question, Andy, is which member of that list of candidates shores up the most vulnerabilities? There's going to be an intense debate as to who is the best candidate electorally.
Yeah, and they have to discuss this strategy and make a decision very, very quickly about this, because there's going to be a lot of strategy over the next few months. I do want to ask you, because we saw the post on social media from Biden as well. We still have not seen from him. He's recovering from COVID. That is kind of what the New York governor, Kathy Hochul, said, that let him recover from COVID as well. But maybe are we still surprised that we haven't seen from Biden? We haven't seen a maybe social media post, any video on an emotional decision like this. And is this maybe a misstep strategically for him and Biden as well?
I do, and I'm talking as somebody, not only as a Democrat, but somebody who reveres President Biden for his decades of service to this country. I think that the way that his inner circle has handled not just the last 24 hours, but the last 2 months has been outrageous, leaving the voters in a lurk, withholding information. Transparency never hurts anyone. And when you're in politics for as long as Joe Biden is, and when there's an emotional attachment that voters have to this man, as vice president and as president, I think it's a mistake whether to not have pre-recorded something or to speak to the American people. I think given this is unprecedented, right? Washington, LBJ, TR, and Biden is the entire list of presidents who could have sought another term and didn't. And I believe given this unprecedented nature of what's happening, we need to hear from the president directly. We need to see him. We need to feel him. It's an emotional process, and I think it's wrong. And I will tell you, announcing a resignation from the Democratic nomination with a tweet, I don't believe shores up confidence to any voters who are uncertain as to which way they'd cast their ballot.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. He's supposed to maybe speak to the nation later on this week, and we'll carry it here on Live Now from Fox. And that maybe leads me to my last question. You talked about maybe separating Harris from Biden as the Trump campaign. The Republicans will try to tie them together. Is that even possible? Is it possible for Harris to potentially separate herself from Biden on some key issues?
I think it is, right? I think, the fact that Biden has stepped down, Kamala Harris is her own woman and her own candidate. Now, her vulnerabilities will remain in terms of it was the Biden-Harris administration. So the record on immigration, the record on crime and inflation is all going to be fair game for Republicans. But I believe that's why picking a vice presidential nominee that helps us shore up support in those swing states is so important. And I believe it's why it's so important to see Kamala Harris on the ground, making the case to voters as to why she's a breath of fresh air. The Democratic base feels that, right? We raised, and you mentioned it, including super PACs, it is $250 million that was raised in the last 24 hours through Act Blue and through donor PACs. So the Democratic base believes that she's a new candidate. But I will tell you what's very unique, and I think not spoken about enough, is these are two candidates running, Harris and Trump, with a nearly 100% name recognition, but both of them have incredibly high unfavorable rates. Kamala Harris has a 55.5% unfavorable rate. Trump has a 53.7% unfavorable rate. So while Trump has a smidge more favorable rate than Harris, both of these candidates are known quantities to the voters. They both have voters who do not like them. How do they make the case to voters that they should switch over? And how do they make the case to voters in the middle? I think is what's going to be seen over the next couple of months.
All right, Josh Lazafan, a lot has changed in 24 hours since this Biden announcement. Every 24 hours until this election, likely new developments every single day. Thank you again for breaking it down, your insight and perspective. We appreciate it here on Live Now.
Thanks for having me.